Welcome to another episode of The Orange Report with Kira Davis. I am your host, Kira Davis. We are merging these brands, just Kira Davis and The Orange Report, to give you all of the news and views you can use from around California and Orange County. I am coming to you today, April 8th. Yesterday, we talked a little bit, we talked a lot about Jennifer Siebel Newsom, what's going on here in California. We talked about the polls. We talked about Trump. We talked about Trump's endorsement of Steve Hilton. That is still rolling through. The shock waves are rolling through. And I got to tell you, it's what an interesting ride it's been for California in the last 12 hours. So in the moments following Trump's endorsement, immediately the California Republican field just split over whether or not that was a good thing. Of course, Chad Bianco's people not of course, but they had to pivot, right? Because Chad was looking for the Trump endorsement. He was working for it. But now, I think a lot of the Bianco supporters are saying, well, that's fine. Trump is kind of an Achilles heel and it's going to make it easier for Chad. And then Steve's supporters, obviously, like me, are saying the opposite. But it was really interesting to watch the breakdown of that in California among Republicans. And I would say that it's pretty evenly split, except that I'm of the mind most of the people that you see advocating for Chad on social media, and that's the only place you can really look and see unless you're going to go to the few meetings that he holds each month or whatever. But I think what you see on there is the bulk of Chad's support. So it's not like there's new people coming over. That's them. That's like, it's the same. I don't mean to compare these groups. They are not the same mentally, but it's the same idea of all the ICE protesters or the No Kings protesters. A lot of people will say, oh, look how many of them there are, millions and millions, but that's all of them. You know what I mean? Like, that's not like they are scraping the base. So that's my sense of what we're seeing on social media. But I think the polls are reflecting that. So we're going to talk about the wild poll that came out following the Trump announcement, and I don't think it hurt. I don't think it hurt the way that people are wishing that it hurt. You know what? Why don't we just get right to this? Let me pull this up. New poll came out today. This poll is from Bender Research. Steve Hilton leading at 22%. Eric Swalwell, 18%. Chad Bianco, 13%. Tom Steyer, 12%. I have been keeping an eye on these polls. I'm not a poll expert. I understand that I am not a polling expert, but I have 20 years nearly in this business. And I did run for office, and I know a little bit about looking at the polls and taking an amalgamation of the polls. So Chad has released a poll yesterday too that had him on top. I think in the number, I'm sorry, I didn't grab that screenshot. The numbers were lower though, but it had Chad on top, I think at 14%. Hilton at 13, Swalwell at 11, yada, yada. And if you look at the bottom if you look at you always have to look at where the poll is from. It says right there on the screenshot that this is a Dem poll. This is a Democrat poll. That's a wide swing. Okay. I'm trying to not be too biased here, right? It's obvious that I am Team Hilton, but I am trying to look logically at this because I'm Team Hilton because I think he can win California, and that's all I want to do. I just want to win. So it's not about hating Chad. I just want to win. And I think Steve's the guy who can win. So, but just trying to be objective, you have to ask yourself, why is there such a wild swing between the poll that we saw? And that is a wild swing between the poll that Steve put out, Steve at 22% and Chad at 13% in that poll. And then Chad's poll that has Chad still at 13% or 14% and Steve at 13%. Chad's poll doesn't reflect the boost in polling numbers, period. And in his poll, they're still stagnant right where they were. That's a Dem poll. Dems do that. This is why they gave us the jungle primaries. This is what I really want people to understand. The primaries aren't just some diabolical Democrat plan to get more votes for themselves. It's to split the Republican field. That's what it's for. Excuse me. That's what it's for. And so what they do with us with these polls then is if Republicans, it's like hedging its bets within the bet itself. It has all kinds of fail safes in it. And one of the fail safes is if two Republicans look like they're going to run away with it, then Dems can run polls that, make it more difficult for Republicans to make a choice, right? So right now they got us chasing our tails. We're all going, oh, we could get 2 Republicans into the top 2. But if you look at the math of all the other candidates underneath, it just really isn't possible. Dems will keep releasing those polls to make us think that it is, so we continue to be split. Because all they have to do is dump 2 of those losers, and then they're going to unify, or they're going to have enough votes to propel 2 into the top. All they have to do is dump 2. I guess the good news for Bianco people and for Hilton people is that it doesn't look like they're going to do that. It doesn't look like they're going to shave anybody down. It doesn't look like anyone wants to leave on the Democrat side. Maybe, but the math isn't there. I think what's going to happen is Bianco's going to end up being a Curtis Sliwa, going to pull just enough votes to degrade that base. But again, everybody's real upset in California, one way or the other, with the Trump endorsement. People on Steve's side are upset that others who are Trump stands and say, I'll go with anything Trump does. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. And then on Chad's side, they're upset that Trump gave that endorsement to Steve. Either way, people are fussing. People are fussing about it here. People are upset. But I think that I just think that Trump understands what a lot of us here in California understands, is that for a Republican to win, it has to be a series of miracles, a series of fortunate events. A lot of things are going to have to line up at the same time. This year, we really can't afford to be splitting. I mean, we've never had to do this before because we've never had 2 interesting candidates. So there's that. But we can't really afford to be splitting that loyalty because of how the jungle primaries are set up. So I understand that a lot of people are upset. There's a lot of cope going on in California GOP land this week. But I think, honestly, I've seen a lot of people too out there saying, look, Republicans shouldn't be infighting. I actually did a video on our Instagram about it. Republicans shouldn't be infighting. We need to unify, but we can't unify because we have 2 candidates and both people think they can win. And only one can go through to June. Like, that is the math of it. I could be wrong about the math. And again, we've seen a lot of miracles happening, and maybe this miracle will happen too. I can only go on what I know. This is what unifying looks like. I kind of wish that Republicans weren't so squishy about the political process. I cannot believe how many people get their feelings hurt over it. Get their feelings hurt over who you or I choose to support as a candidate. This is politics. You have to fight. You have to fight it out. Let's pretend that Steve and Chad are both going through. Do you think they're going to go through and then be nice to each other while they try to win the governor's office? No, this is how this works. And if we had a normal primary season, this is what we would be doing. Just like President Trump had to do in his primary season. We all knew he was going to pull through, but you still have to fight the primary battle. That's how the voters get clarity. Okay, so I just think it's really wimpy to say, like, oh, Republicans shouldn't be infighting. We're not fighting. We're not infighting. We're vetting our candidates. We're arguing. We're debating. This is how it works. And this is what Democrats have told us we're not supposed to be doing. Right. So to say we shouldn't be fighting, that's acting like Democrats. Democrats are a monolith. Democrats think alike. We'll unify when we need to. Believe me. That's why I'm not getting too upset about all of my friends who are mad at me because I'm supporting Steve and I'm throwing out negative press about Chad. That's true. I don't tell lies. I don't lie for this. Okay, but I only say what's true. I'm throwing out stuff and people are mad, but I'm not mad, and I'm not mad at those people who are mad at me because guess what? I know we're all going to be friends. We're all going to be on the same team at the end of the day. We're all going to be one happy family because we're going to have to be. Eventually, only one person will be available to vote for or none, and then we'll go back to being one team to defeat the Democrat complex. But this idea that we're not supposed to be arguing this and battling it out, and these candidates aren't supposed to be dinging each other up, I just think that's very naive. And that's not how politics works. And the guy who moves forward to win the governor's mansion in November, God willing, that's a Republican. God willing, that's Steve Hilton. But if a Republican goes to Sacramento, they're still going to Sacramento with a supermajority, even if Steve's wonderful golden ticket team does manage to poke through with or without him, that governor is still going to Sacramento, and they're going to be in a very harsh, combative environment. It's not going to be friendly. And they need to be tested. That's what the primaries are for. You get tested in the fire. It's like a refining fire, right? That's why candidates who run and lose often make great candidates in the future, because they have the experience. But that's what has to happen. This person has to get tested in the fire. Like, why does Kamala Harris sound so dumb when she talks? Why does Gavin Newsom sound so dumb when he talks? Why does any California Democrat sound so dumb when they talk? It's because they're not tested. They have no pushback. They have no combatants in the media. There's nobody to ask them uncomfortable questions. They never have to be held accountable for anything in California. And then what happens to them when they get on the national stage? They're weak. They're weak and boring and stupid, and people make fun of them. And the only California Democrats that do well on the national scene are the ones who can be protected by the mainstream media. But even that protection is gone these days. You're seeing how Gavin is struggling. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I think it's rather naive to think that these two candidates, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, should not be coming for each other and should not be battling it out. They absolutely should, because the generals are going to be ugly. And if you can't make your way through the primaries, I don't trust you to stand toe to toe on stage with the Democrat and take all their slings and arrows and all their insults and all their unfair framings and all of that. This is where they get tested. So asking Republicans to stop, quote, infighting when it comes to these two candidates is asking us to stop thinking. Okay, I'm not asking anybody to stop thinking. I'm making my case for Steve Hilton. I'm not telling anyone else how they should vote. I'm telling you why I think you should vote for Steve Hilton and why I'm voting for Steve Hilton. And that's as personally as anyone in California should take it. But guess what? I lived through 2016 too. I can't believe how many of you out there have forgotten about 2016. That came and split the Republican movement right down the middle. We're still dealing with the consequences of that. Trump still won. We still won Congress. We still won a bunch of seats locally across the United States, right? Groups broke up, families broke up. Trump came and changed everything. And y'all said back then, oh my gosh, I can't believe how dumb people are. They're going to let this split the movement. They're going to let they don't like Trump, and so they're going to let, our support for Trump split the movement. And then these are the very people who are like, I'm splitting the movement because I'm Team Chad or I'm Team Hilton. And we're like, I've been through this before, so I'm not worried about it. I really am not. I trust the values of conservatism. I'm a Republican because I'm a conservative. I'm not a Republican because I really enjoy the party. I'm a Republican because I'm a conservative, and I think this is the party that holds those values most closely and gives me the best option to voting for those values. But I'm a conservative because of my conservative values, not because of any one candidate, not because of any one president. What I think today is what I'm going to think in 2 years, at the core, because my values have not changed, and my values do not change based on the candidate or based on the discomfort around any given candidate. I want to encourage you guys to go out there and argue, and don't be sad about it and don't be mad about it. Go out, argue, advocate for your candidate. If it's Chad, if it's Steve, advocate for that person. And let's see how this shakes out. But this is an exciting time to be a Californian. I know I'm not discouraged. I'm actually encouraged. I really am. You can call me naive. You can call me hopeful. I'm certainly hopeful. Hope is basically what we have to go on right now in this state when it comes to politics. But I've seen more change in this state in the last year than I have seen in the almost 20 years that I live here. I believe with my whole heart, Californians are ready for change. And if we can beat the cheating, we will deliver that change to them. So what you can do right where you are, you don't have to be a Californian to do this. You can pray. You can pray for us. Don't insult us. Stop insulting us, please. There's a lot of people out there who got a lot of stuff to say about California and what we deserve and, what we should be asking for. There's a lot of people that have things to say, but nasty things to say about us. You insult us all the time. And guess what? Some of us are still here fighting. Some of us are still here fighting the good fight. And we believe in this state. And there's a lot of good people in this state. And God has turned his wrath from nations who have turned back to him. He's done it before. He can do it for us too. So I pray, if you are a praying person, pray for revival. pray for integrity in our elections, and pray that God's will be done here. You can pray for those three things. That'll be huge. That'll be huge for us. All right, I want to move forward. Warren's in the chat. He says that's common sense. I don't know which part you were referring to, but I can say, yeah, probably all of it is common sense, because that's what Kira Davis delivers. Common sense with like a little bit of spice sprinkled on top. Okay, I want to go to, okay, let's go to Gavin Newsom. Here's what your $19 million is buying you, y'all. Let me stop this. Sorry. I'll share the screen. Now we have talked about Gavin Newsom's $19 million of your tax dollar money, and we've seen no proof that it's not. So your tax dollar money, $19 million of it is going to rehab California, rehab the California image. And I mean, as homes stand shelled out, burned out, completely in tatters, shambles in the Palisades, in Eaton, and still in Malibu years later. Still, as those houses stand there, as those people wonder where the $100 million in fire aid money went that was supposed to go directly to fire victims, as those people ask that, Gavin Newsom is spending $19 million to run a reputation rehab campaign in the rest of America so he can run for president. If you live in the Palisades or you know someone from the Palisades, hello, Spencer Pratt. If you know someone, ask them what they would do, what they would have done with $19 million in their pocket. What could they do? What would they do with $1 million in their pocket? What would they do for themselves and their home and the ability to sustain themselves until they can get that damn permit process pushed through? Like, it's disgusting. And I know we look at this stuff as sort of, this is crazy California. Isn't California so crazy? But I want to admonish you people. I want to tell you to get mad about this. Stop brushing it away. We've normalized it. It's actually not okay. It really isn't. And it's not something we should go, well, that's just corrupt California. It's going to be corrupt California if you don't get pissed off. This is not okay. People are living in tents in the Palisades right now just so they can squat on their property because the state's trying to push them out. The state's doing everything it can to push out the last holdouts out of their property. You should be disgusted by this. You should recognize this for the evil that it is, and you should say something about it. And don't just brush it off as crazy California. It is disgusting. It's thievery. It's evil. It's so upset. I'm like spitting while I talk. Let me play this for you. This is what your $19 million is getting you. Let me know if it's worth it. Picture Gavin Newsom looking, having fun, and then all of the stats that go by really quickly so that you don't focus on them too much. All of the stats are just stats about us being the world's fourth largest economy or fifth largest economy or whatever. Nothing makes me angrier when Gavin pulls that out. California, is there anyone anywhere who says to themselves when they're paying their electric bill, when they're paying their mortgage or their rent, or when they're paying to register their car every year, is there a single one of you, or when you're at the gas pump, is there a single one of you that says, yeah, but California is the fifth largest economy in the world? None of us are saying that. I paid $70 for 3/4 of a tank of gas 3 days ago here in California. There isn't a single person who doesn't live in Gavin Newsom's house that is saying, oh, yeah, we're doing great here when they're paying that much money to fill up their tank. It's absolutely ridiculous. $19 million. Well, he's lighting it on fire. He might as well set it on top of the pile of cash that Tom Steyer has lit on fire to be our governor. Tom Steyer is a billionaire. I can't believe one single person is going to vote for that guy. Jane Fonda just came out and gave Tom Steyer an endorsement yesterday. That should be all you need to know. I cannot believe that one single California, let alone a lefty, a granola, like kill the billionaire class lefty, is going to vote for Tom Steyer. He's a billionaire. He never has to work again. He's going to end up topping. I mean, he's going to top 100 million before the primaries are even over. He'll probably end up pumping 200 if he makes it through, 200 to 300 million into his own campaign for a job that is 4 years and pays less than $200,000 a year. I think it pays around 200,000. You got to ask yourself why. Why would someone spend that much of their own money for a temporary job that pays basically nothing, like pocket change for them. You know what I mean? That's not somebody who has good intentions for the office. That's somebody who's shopping for the influence, not to help you, California. That's the entire Democrat field. It's all of them. I talked about the Newsoms and Jennifer's weird story yesterday and how that is very revealing about the type of person that she is, about the type of people that they are. These people are black holes. They're emotional black holes. They are only running for office to fill the hole in their lives. They don't care about what they're making better or worse for you. They don't care. And that's another reason why I'm supporting Steve Hilton, because I actually know Steve personally, and I'm in the rare position of knowing personally a major candidate. Like, that's a very rare position. So I don't have to do all my work on him because I've done that over 10 years of friendship. And so it's like I can actually look at it's such a privilege. It really is. It's such a privilege to know a candidate like this personally and be able to look at that person personally and say, man, I've been talking to you for 10 years about what is good for California and what needs to happen for California. We have both shared our frustrations and the pain that we feel for, along with, and on behalf of Californians everywhere. And I can look at you and know that your motivation is absolutely the only motivation you have is to make California better and make the lives of Californians better. I'm not saying that Chad can't say that. I'm just saying I don't know him personally, and I know Steve personally. I know I've met Chad personally, but I don't know him. And I have friends. Sonia Shah is a friend of mine. She's a little upset at me for uh, supporting Steve as well, but she's a friend of mine and she is a personal friend of Chad. She supports Chad and she says the same about him, right? Well, I've known him, Kira, and I know that these are his motivations. Like, it's very rare to be in a position to know personally a candidate that closely that you can make a personal judgment about them. And so that's why I, go so hard about this because I know what his motivations are. Again, I'm not saying Chad doesn't have those. I just don't know him personally. My point is that there are some people who are running for you, right? They're running to make your life better because they know if your life gets better, their lives are going to get better. They understand the math on that. And there are some people who are running for themselves. So they don't care if your life gets better or worse. They only care if you see them, adore them, and worship them. This is a form of worship seeking for the Newsoms. It is. And it's because they both have these incredibly traumatized black holes in their hearts that they don't know how to fill. Jennifer, Gavin, the only thing that will fill that is Jesus. And his invitation is open to you every day. And if you're going to go, oh, well, Kira, you're being so, you're being such a hypocrite. I get that a lot. If I'm mean, then people are like, and then you said you weren't a Christian. I never said I wasn't mean, though. I just said I was a Christian. I just said I love Jesus. I didn't say I'm not mean. I didn't say I'm not rude. I didn't say I don't cuss. I didn't say I don't do things that are, that are probably going to be or look unpleasing or unpleasing to God. I didn't say any of that. I've never said that. All I've said is I'm a Christian, just a sinner who loves Jesus. So no, it's not hypocritical. And Gavin, if it's the people who call themselves Christians being mean to you, that is keeping you away from the feet of Jesus, then go to the feet of Jesus and ask why are people mean to me, and heal me from the hurt that I feel. And he will, he can do that. He can offer that to you. But I also do know that, the Lord I've been just reading in Romans actually yesterday, but the Lord has said it to keep some people blind. That is biblical. That's in the word that the Lord has made it. I think it's in Psalms too. The Lord has made it so some people will just have a veil over their eyes. Some people will not be won. They won't be. And that is why you have to stand on the truth and what matters every time. That's why I said we can't be scared of that Trump endorsement, and we don't need to be scared of that Trump endorsement because it represents a truth that has actually changed America. And we shouldn't run from that. People want clarity, and you have to stand on the truth. The minute you begin watering down what you believe, the minute you begin watering down the message, you weaken the opportunity for victory. People have to know who you are and what you stand for because they need to know what they're choosing. We owe that to California. We owe that to them. And Trump is a clarifying force. So that is why I don't think, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to be able to stand clearly on what you believe, because if you water it down, you will lose. We will lose. And those of us who have been standing up and being consistent and saying the same things for 10 years or more in California, we now find ourselves in the place of privilege to be able to speak to the people who have not been paying attention, because we're not hypocrites. We've been saying the same things this whole time. We've been standing on the truth this whole time, and we haven't once run away from anything. I think it is ridiculous to run away from a Trump endorsement, because we're going to have to work closely with Trump to fix this state. We're going to, and we're going to want Trump to want to work closely with us. Now, I don't think he cares, really. I really don't think he cares if the person here is loyal, MAGA, or anything. But what he definitely wants is someone he can work with. I think that's why he has supported Byron Donald in Florida. I was one of my favorite followers on X. My friend and I, we go back and forth. She lives in Florida, and she was telling, I was explaining this Chad Steve thing in the Trump endorsement. And she said, well, we here in Florida, because there's a lot of us conservatives here that are upset with Trump for endorsing Byron Donald. We didn't want that either. And I found that interesting. I didn't realize that it was so controversial. And I said, why? Is it because Casey DeSantis was running too? And, Ron DeSantis is a really popular governor for great reason. And it would stand to reason that people would also love to support his wife. And she just said that I think there was another, I don't even think it was Casey. I think there was another candidate that people liked more. People felt that Byron really wasn't present, and that the people feel like Byron is sort of like the way we feel about Swalwell. This is what I got from her. You can correct me if you're from Florida. Let me know. I'm fascinated. I mean, we got our own thing going on in California, so I can't really render an opinion on it. But it could be that people just feel like Byron he's a DC guy, he's a Beltway guy, he's not really plugged in to the Florida scene the way that these other candidates are. Fair enough. But the Trump endorsement is worth something, and here's why. It's because he's going to need to work very closely with that governor. He's going to want a governor that he doesn't have to fuss with too much. So I can understand why Trump is throwing these endorsements out. But I don't think it's wrong to say we're going to go with the winner. We're going to go with the proven, tried and true winner. Like Republicans sure do know how to snatch victory out of or jaws out of the Republicans know how to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. We're really good at that. And I hear all the trepidation. I actually do hear it. I'm not oblivious to it. And I think you have good points to it. I do think there's fair enough reason to be nervous. But I just think if I was playing a sports analogy, if I was playing a sports analogy, there you go. That's how you know I should be using sports analogies. If I was using a sports analogy, I would say, if I was coaching a team, and I would say, well, who are we going to give the ball to? The person who is a proven winner, who runs it down for the touchdown every time, or the up and comer who has proven himself on the practice field. Well, it's iffy. He might have a great game, or he might the experience aspect might get to him. I would be going with the person. I'd be going with the Tom Brady. I'd be going with the person I know is going to end up that I know has won and has a proven track record. And I understand that California is a special state, but you know what? I don't think it's that special. I'm just going to be honest about it. I don't think Republicans are losing elections here. I don't. I think there's so much cheating. I think the electoral system is so corrupted, and we are so defeated and despondent. We have let ourselves, I don't care what those registration numbers say either. A lot of people, I wasn't a registered Republican until I ran for office. I flipped back and forth, not because I was a Republican. I only ever voted Republican, but I used to hate how the California GOP operated, and I wanted them to see me deregistering them. Like I wanted them to see losing me, right? So there's a lot of people like that who are Republicans who do want to vote conservative. They're just not registered Republicans because they think the California Republican Party is weak and isn't going to fight for them. And that's another reason why you need a clarifying force like Trump, to prove to people like, no, we're not afraid, and we're not going to bend and buckle when it gets hard. We're not going to shift because the left is like being mean to us about MAGA. I think there's value in that. I think Californians are hungry for that. And I think there's a lot more Republicans to go out than the ledgers show. There's a lot more of them to go out and get than the ledgers show. They're just despondent. I have said this over and over again about the GOP's push for early voting. Look, I hate early voting. I think it's a part of why we have such a a trash electoral system. I have never wanted to do it. I didn't want to do it last year, but when I was running for school board, I realized like, yeah, it's the system we have, and we're giving ourselves a drag right at the beginning. Like we're tying a stone around to our feet right at the beginning if we don't engage in the early voting. Not all of you have to, but the reason why early voting matters is that it matters in that polling, and it matters for the resources that candidates and the GOP send out. If they can see that you've already returned a ballot, they can't see what your vote is, but they can see you've returned a ballot, then they know we're not going to waste. It's good for you too, because you can get off the lists, right? You can get off of those text lists. You can get off of those ad lists, all that stuff that you hate, the email stuff. They can take you off because they know they can put their money towards the undecided or the people who haven't voted yet. I agree that it is not ideal. I agree that early voting is a reason why we have such corruption in voting, but it's how we have to operate right now. But one of the things that I have said and continue to say is that the GOP, the California, particularly the California GOP, should not be shaming people who don't want to go and vote early. I swear, all of our candidates, mostly the GOP officials, whenever any of them, with a couple of exceptions, whenever any of them are talking about early voting, they're so rude about it. They talk down to people. It's so rude. I get so upset because now I engage in early voting. I encourage you to engage in early voting. I do know the value of it, but I know why people aren't doing it. It's not because they're stupid, okay? It's not because they're children, they're childish. It's not because they haven't done their research. It's because they have done their research. It's because they're not stupid. These are not idiots. So don't talk down to these people who don't want to vote early. Give them a reason to go vote early. One of the reasons they won't do it is most people don't feel their vote's going to count. Most people don't trust the GOP to be fighting for their vote to count. So we as Republicans have to give people a reason to have more confidence in the voting system. Now, we can't guarantee it because we don't run it right now, but we can, I don't know, like county parties really do need to be active out there, getting watchers to the polls, making sure that people know that the GOP is active on your behalf to make sure that your ballots are going to be as safe as possible. What were your thoughts on, Wallflower asks, what are your thoughts on Pratt when you get a chance? On Spencer Pratt, for those of you who don't know, Spencer Pratt, former reality TV star, running for mayor in Los Angeles. Listen, I've been watching that race with curiosity more than anything because obviously I can't vote in Los Angeles. Now, I like Spencer. First of all, I like anybody who's going to boot out Karen Basura. Anybody who's going to change the guard there in LA, I'm going to support. But I did know that another candidate popped up, Tish Hyman, and I had the opportunity to interview her personally when I should cut that up and just put that on my socials. But I interviewed her when I was filling in for Dr. Drew. You guys might know Dr. Drew Pinsky. I'm a guest host for his show sometimes. And I was filling in on his show and she was one of the guests. And I knew nothing about her except she was the woman that sounded the alarm on the men and the women's locker rooms at the gym in LA, and she got kicked out for it. She got her membership revoked and she went viral for it. And then she decided to run for office. Now, she was a former Democrat. I think she's independent now because that journey really red pilled her, right? That journey, she went to all of her Democrat representatives that she had voted for to talk to them. And she was like, she told me on that very interview, they were so mean. All of them were terrible people. And I was like, wait, I voted for you. You're supposed to be my people. So that really changed her. So she's running for mayor. And I have to say, I was really impressed with her. I was truly, deeply impressed with her business acumen, her plans for the city. She's actually got a whole plan for the city. She's got a lot of business experience. She's not just a music industry person, and she's extremely intelligent and extremely driven. I loved her. I think she would be an excellent mayor for Los Angeles. I think Spencer's weakness is that he comes across as a one-issue mayor or mayoral candidate. And of course he is, because it was the Palisades that got him into the race. But I think he's been expanding his, I think he's been working. I think he's been working to get a better grip on what needs to happen all over Los Angeles. I can see him going to get educated and informed. He's building his coalition. I like that. And I think when it comes down to, again, take this with a grain of salt, I don't live in Los Angeles City. But from what I can tell, I think when it comes down to it, probably what's going to end up happening, it's going to be an issue of name recognition. And in that respect, I think Tish is behind the eight ball. I don't know that she has the greatest chance to push forward. And probably what needs to happen is Tish needs to join Spencer's team because she is a spitfire. But that's really hard too, because you sink so much time and money and effort into your campaign. I don't know what the polling is looking like for her and whether or not it's going to be worth it for her to push forward. But she's definitely worth taking a look at. She's definitely worth supporting, even morally, even if you don't think you're going to go to the ballot box and vote for her. And I think it would be an unstoppable team if they combined. But I do think Spencer's got the high ground here with his name recognition, and his celebrity is going to help. It is going to help. But you keep an eye on Tish Hyman. You watch her. That woman is one to watch. I was deeply impressed. She changed my mind about the whole mayoral race. I thought before I was like, yeah, Spencer, obviously, and no one else. And now I'm more resigned to the fact that Angelenos themselves are going to have to figure this out because they're both making good points. The point is, these are your two candidates. Forget about the rest of that field. Nithya Raman is polling at the top at 17%, but it's so early now, and a lot of those polls are of union people. That's how the Dems get Dems get this golden polling because what they do is they just send out memos to their union employees and they own all the unions. And so if you've got 3 million union employees in the state of California, you just send out a memo to them and go vote for this person. And then they go vote. And it looks like, that. So I think that's what is running the polls right now. Wallflower says, yeah, I'll take a look at her. Yeah, you should take a look at her. She's a really impressive person, period. I tell you, one of the things that impressed me, I asked her, just outright. And if you want to follow my socials, you know what, later today, I'll go clip that up for you. But I asked her outright, I said, Tish, you know what? We've got Spencer Pratt running. He's a former reality star. You're a musician. She's a Grammy winning artist, actually, a songwriter and rapper. And that's her business, is music. And I said, Tish, a lot of people are going to look at you and they're going to say, well, oh, another entertainer is so LA, running a reality star, a music star. And they're going to feel like maybe, you're just another one of those people looking for name recognition. What do you have to say to that? And she said to me, this is what really changed my mind about her. She said to me, Kira, have you ever heard of me before this incident? Have you bought my albums? Have you seen my music videos? And I was like, no, I haven't. She said, yeah, but I'm a Grammy Award winning artist. I said, yeah, that's true. She said, ask yourself why. You haven't seen me out there because I'm not a part of the music business. Music is my business. I'm a businesswoman, and I have run my business as a woman for 25 years, and I have been successful as my own business. I do not participate as a member of the music business. I am a businesswoman, and I want to solve problems. So when I have a problem in my business, I always think about how I can solve it. I'm solution oriented because that's my business. And Los Angeles needs people who are going to be solution oriented. I looked at all of the issues in Los Angeles and I identified all the problems, and my mind immediately went to how do we solve each one, because I run a business. I thought that was an excellent response, and it really made me think differently about it. She's worth looking at, even if she doesn't move forward after this. Yeah. Okay. And let me warn you about this before I go. I want to wrap up. Before I go, I want you to see this. Okay, this is all right. Let me set this up for you. In California, because the madness never ends here, we've got a new bill. So you remember SCOTUS's ruling from last week or the week before about conversion therapy. The ban on conversion therapy in states like Colorado and California is unconstitutional. And really, how it acts as a it acts as a censorship for Christian counseling or for any dysphoria counseling. It basically tells you the ban on conversion therapy says you can only affirm a kid in their gender dysphoria. You're not allowed to treat it. So SCOTUS overturned that. Well, what did California do? Of course, our Democrat legislature went into session to introduce a new bill to combat that. And the bill is called SB 934, and it is a bill to basically overrule the SCOTUS and make it discrimination or a form of hate speech to use Christian counseling or to use a detransitioning counseling for these kids. So there was a hearing in Sacramento yesterday. It's disgusting. Again, people, you know what? Go up there and cause a ruckus. We should stop being polite. They gave these people 30 seconds a person to talk. 30 seconds a person. These people traveled hours. They waited hours. 30 seconds a person to talk about this bill. And one of the people talking was a very powerful message from a young gentleman, a young man named Johnny, who is a detransitioner. And he gave his message about how the drugs they gave him and the treatments they gave him basically just completely stripped him of his sexuality. It didn't help his sexuality. He no longer has the ability to function sexually. He no longer has the ability to grow properly. It stunted his growth. It gave him all kinds of other medical issues. He's never going to experience romance or sex the way that human beings are created to experience it. Like that is a deep, deep deficit for the human soul. It really is. And it is because of the way the LGBTQ crowd just focuses exclusively on sex and how, it's so important to them that it's their only message. So that it's important. So to deceive a child about their body and then permanently scar their body so that they can't function normally sexually for the rest of their lives, that's a special kind of evil. So guess who's introducing this bill? None other than Scott, the appropriately named Senator Scott Weiner from San Francisco, who is now running to replace Nancy Pelosi and probably just will be crowned. The guy's a sick pervert. I don't care what you tell me. I would bet everything in my savings account right now that if the DOJ went and looked at his hard drive, that he would be in jail. This guy is the guy who has been responsible for the lowering of the age of sexual consent in our state for the last 10 years. He is responsible he wanted to lower it to 12. We compromised that for 15. He got rid of the law we had that made it a criminal offense to knowingly infect someone with AIDS. He did that. This guy is evil. I'm telling you, this guy's a pervert, and you're going to see his face, and you're going to see it on his face all on your own. So Johnny went to testify yesterday and to give his version, to give his testimony about why proper therapy is important and why this bill is evil and they should just leave it alone and let people seek the treatment that they want. And I want you to watch Scott Weiner. Watch how antsy he gets. Watch how weird he gets. Well, he didn't get that way when the girls were up there, by the way. This boy is talking to him about his sexual functions, and I want you to watch how agitated, weird, and alert Scott Weiner becomes. And this is the man who is setting law for children in our state. My glasses on so I don't do anything horrible here. Look at him. Look at him.
I was
Look at his
orgasmic
fingers.
because when
Look at
exploration
him.
as to why is allowed, even if you are
Is he turned on or is he angry? Because I don't know. I don't know what to say. That boy, that story is horrible. It's evil what we've done to kids. And like, why would you do that to a boy? Why would you do that to a child and call it help? I want you to know that that bill passed out of committee 7-1. After that testimony, that man looked that boy in the face and then voted against it. Voted against him, voted to continue to support the evil mutilation of children. That boy sat there and said, if one person had decided to explore my dysphoria, I could have been spared this. I could have a normally functioning body. People need to go to jail. I have said this over and over again. People need to go to jail. It is not enough to sue. It is not going to be enough to move on from this and say, oh, well, it was a crazy time. I'm glad we came out of it. People have to go to jail. This is child abuse, and it will happen again in the future if we don't send people to prison. You should send a person, if anybody sexually stunted a perfectly healthy child on purpose, if anybody took the breasts off a perfectly healthy child for this reason, or castrated a perfectly healthy child for this reason, you should treat that person the same that you would if they did it in the back of their van. It's evil. It's evil. Scott Weiner is evil. Scott Weiner is evil. And I'm never going to give him a moment of peace. And I never do on X. I always ask him what's on his hard drive. And you should too. People should just be hounding him all the time. He's evil. And I don't have anything to prove it right now, but I know. I know. And I know people who know him. This is evil. And we shouldn't wave it away as crazy California, or is that just the way it is, or we just got to win elections. No, we need to call evil what it is. And then we need to go arrest some people. That's what I think. I think we need to arrest some people. And you know what? I've said it before. I'll say it again. A public hanging or two would not help, would not hurt, would not hurt. A public hanging or two would not hurt. All right. As you can see, I'm beginning to sweat under these lights. So this is a good time for me to go. You can follow us on X at Orange Report OC, or follow me, Kira, at Kira Davis on X. We're on Instagram, Orange Report OC. Go follow us, YouTube, Rumble, all that stuff. Make sure that you subscribe to my Substack, justkiradavis.com, and keep up with all my stuff over there. And we will be back with a compilation episode. We're going dark on Thursdays. We go dark on Thursdays so we can get our compilation episode ready for Friday. And that's the show that will focus heavily on California and Orange County news as well. Thank you for um thank you to the chat. Thanks for stopping by and chatting. Go get mad. Go get mad, y'all. I'm mad. Let's do it. All right. Onward and upward. Until we meet again, my friends, don't forget that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So bring on the sunshine. Peace.